Appositive is a grammatical term to refer to a repetition that happens in sentences. It's when you repeat a noun with another noun, and you end up saying something twice, but with a different noun to explain what the first noun was. All right, so what it does is it renames or it clarifies what the first thing was. So you can say, Mr. K has taught me a great deal. So that could be a regular sentence, but you want to add who Mr. K is. You think it would be better to stick in just a few words to explain who Mr. K is. So you add commas there, comma, and you say, oh, Mr. K, my favorite English teacher, has taught me a great deal. And so that part in the middle, this part is considered your appositive for Mr. K. So next sentence could be, the insect is crawling across the kitchen table, and the insect is a tiny ant. So the insect, a tiny ant, is crawling across the kitchen table. So when you're speaking, you have to kind of pause at those commas, and so in order to force that to happen, you got to make sure to write those commas in that position, front and back, to signal that you have an appositive here, a tiny ant, to explain who this insect is. So one thing you need to remember in test-taking situations is that you should ignore the appositive. The appositive should be very short, but in exam situations, what happens is the test makers are trying to confuse you, and they do that by adding unnecessary words to your sentences so that you get confused about the real important rules like subject-verb agreement and pronoun antecedent agreement, things like that. And one of the tactics that they would use is to stick in things like appositives or prepositional phrases that are very wordy so that you lose track of the sentence. Let's read this sentence here. The insects, large, hairy-legged ants that have spied my bowl of oatmeal cereal left unattended next to the glass of milk, is crawling across the kitchen table. So we have this long appositive in the middle, and by the time that you get to the verb here is, you forget where the subject was, and someone who's not very grammar conscious might look just in front here, glass of milk, milk is, glass is, and determine that this is the proper verb. But if you're grammar conscious, you would recognize this appositive phrase here and just kind of ignore it all. And then see that your main sentence is, the insects is crawling. And you would say, oh no, it's not the insects is crawling. We would have to say the insects are crawling, right? So that's the important thing about appositives. Should we use a comma or no comma with the appositives? So I told you in previous sentences that we need to have the comma front and back, but that's not always the case. There are two kinds of appositives. One we would call the restrictive type, and the other one called non-restrictive. And we'll talk more about this when we're talking about clauses, and this is a very difficult idea for most students. Restrictive means that when you mention your noun, your friend, it's unclear who this friend is because, of course, you have many friends. So when you add the word Paul, the word Paul is really necessary or is essential to explaining what the friend is, who the friend is. So this is kind of an identifying element. We call it restrictive, and in cases like that, we don't use commas here. So we say, your friend Paul, and we don't pause when we're speaking either. Your friend Paul is here to see you. Okay? We don't say, your friend Paul is here to see you. Okay? How about the non-restrictive? Non-restrictive means when you look at the sentence, Paul's car is very stylish. The Paul's car part is very clear because most people only have one car. When we say Paul's car, we know that there's a Paul and he has one car and it's that particular car you're talking about. So anything additional that you say about that car or trying to identify that car or clarify that idea is not really necessary. So it's considered non-essential in identification. It explains and clarifies, but it's not essential for identification. So in that case, we would use a comma there, comma there. Oh, Paul's car, you know, by the way, it's a red convertible, and it is very stylish. So how would you read it? You would say, Pulse car. The Pulse car, a red convertible, is very stylish. All right. So I didn't do a great job, but you should pause just a little bit when you have those commas, and you want that when the speaker is speaking, so you would add those commas when you're writing it.